The Seattle Seahawks have announced that Pete Carroll will no longer be the team's head coach, but he will remain in the organization as an advisor. Carroll has the most coaching wins in franchise history, led the team to the postseason in 10 of his 14 seasons, and brought Seattle their first Super Bowl back in 2014.
That's it for now, and I'm freaking jacked. I'm fired up. I'm not tired. I'm not worn down. You guys tried your best. You didn't wear me out. It's the end of the season. I'm supposed to be, go lay on a cot somewhere. I ain't feeling like that. And, there's what's coming. I don't know. I got no idea, and I really don't care right now. But I do. I'm excited.
And longtime Seahawks star Bobby Wagner and quarterback Geno Smith both attended Carroll's press conference. Really cool. Media even gave Carroll a standing ovation when he left the podium. Wow. Wow, that's really something. I wonder if Luke Willson got a standing ovation in his retirement press conference. Luke, did you get a standing ovation at your retirement press conference? Because I know Pete was excited at your press conference.
Yeah, I did not get a standing ovation. In fact, as far as the retirement goes, that was more of a few phone calls and a dinner later. There was no actual press conference for me.
Let's talk about this somewhat shocking news. Were you shocked when you heard this news, Luke, or did you expect this at all?
Not one bit. You look at the Seahawks, and obviously they were hoping to be a playoff team and a contender, and they tied for the 7th seed and, beat out on a tiebreaker. I definitely know that they were disappointed with their season. But if you look at Pete Carroll and the numbers that he's really produced in his time there, you said he's been there for 14 years. How about this one, Jay? In those 14 years, he's had 3 seasons that were not above 500. 2 of those were his first 2 years. In all 3 of them, they won 7 games. So he's never really had a bloodbath year where they've only won 4 or 5 games. You said it. Won a Super Bowl, multiple division titles, 2 NFC championships. He's been the definition of consistency, even when people thought they'd be a very, very poor team a few years ago. I was a little surprised by that, and I also thought it was a bit strange because the man is such a motivator. He means so much to the community. He's meant so much to his current players and former players, myself included, a huge mentor. It was a bit of a shocking move because, especially after listening to his press conference today, it sounds like he wanted to coach and he's still got a lot of energy and a lot of zest for it. So, again, I was definitely surprised.
Let's talk about potential replacements, and it's a tough act to follow. Our friend Mike Garafolo from the NFL Network said on Twitter, or X, that Dan Quinn would be a strong candidate. I know you're a fan of Dan Quinn. I want to ask you about that. But also our stats guy, Hound Dog Harrison, who Luke, might be the biggest Seahawks fan of all time. He wants Mike Vrabel, and Mike Vrabel's available. So who are you looking at as the next coach of the Seattle Seahawks?
To me, I think the front runner's got to be Dan Quinn. And I love where Hound Dog's head is at. I get the Mike Vrabel, but it would just be such a stark contrast to Pete Carroll's attitude. Vrabel comes from the Belichick tree. I'm not saying he's Bill, but he's going to be a little more hard-nosed, disciplinary style, where that is the polar opposite of Pete Carroll. So I think if I'm John Snyder and anyone else who's involved in hiring the next head coach, you got to think the locker room you got in there right now is solid. I know they believe that they can win with this roster. Is Mike Vrabel a guy who's going to, 1, like this roster, and 2, will his message get across? You put a guy like Dan Quinn in here, they all love him, he's got familiarity, and he's going to preach some of the same messages. Obviously, he's going to be different from Pete, but he comes from Pete Carroll's tree. And the next thing I'll say, if it's not Dan Quinn, it wouldn't surprise me if they just go on a massive find to try and get either Ben Johnson from the Lions or an offensive guru, so to speak. And the reason I say that, and I think this was part of why Pete Carroll was let go today, is they look at this offense and they think to themselves, we have a number 1 style offense as far as talent. You look at wide receiver, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, JSN, top 15 pick from last year's draft. Geno Smith, everybody there loves him. He's got a ton of talent. Trust me on that. You look at the running back room, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, the rookie this year, has had an incredible year. The offensive line has been good. They were banged up at times. And I think they might try and find a coach that is really an offensive first-minded guy who's going to let these guys stretch the field and try and make this offense a little more prolific rather than the Pete Carroll, we want to run the ball, play great defense style.
Now we have 7 head coaching openings across the National Football League, and it just got very interesting. And like you said, Pete Carroll might not be done as a coach just yet. Luke, we'll talk to you Saturday after Chiefs and Dolphins.
Can't wait.